appreciate it. For everyone watching, it's a privilege to be here sharing with you. I'm Mayo. I'm co-founder and CEO of Filmport. Filmport is a complete film, commerce, and distribution infrastructure that enables filmmakers to self-distribute their films in a direct-to-audience way to meet their audience anywhere in the world. So they are able to set up virtual cinemas, publish their films, um, monetize their films, get insights into the performance and the engagement of their films. And they do all of this while maintaining ownership of the films, maintaining ownership of their IP, maintaining 100% visibility of all transactions, and just, having all the necessary tools to make the best decisions, business decisions, especially around their films. So, yeah, that's what we do at Filmport. I'm happy to be here to share my story, to share action points, about building. Filmport has been in development for about a year. So yes, I can relate to both, early stage and then from my previous experiences, maybe a bit more later stage and different environment. So yeah, they say builders will always build. I'm always happy to be around builders.
Yes, thank you so much, my wife. It's great to meet you. I will just go straight to the next question, which looks like what you talked about now. Now
All
that
right.
most people are stuck in the ordinary zone or in their regular life, it's easier to get into routines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are just fine with what you are doing, but inside you, you are called to do something, right?
Yeah.
But there are lots of excuses, and we are in Nigeria. Most of the people following us are from Africa. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
issues, and there are,
Mm-hmm.
you open up your internet, there's all the challenges and all the
Yeah.
excuses.
Yeah.
What do you what do you think is the specific moment, or even what has it been for you when you saw an issue and you decided, okay, I was going to do something about it, even if considering all my constraints? What's that
Mm.
specific point for you?
So now, like, if I'm sure you've read my bio, you've seen my history, you've seen my LinkedIn. I have done a couple of things. And of course, that moment that you decide to jump into the ring and do something it has come in different shapes or forms, right? But I'll say if I backtrack as much as possible and I can advise in a bit of general sense of it. Typically there is a burden you'll feel, right? There is a discomfort you will either feel or that you would have seen someone else experience. All right. And then, of course, that's what births the idea and all of that. And from there, there are times that something will just push you over the edge and you'll be like, you know what? I just got to do this thing. For Filmport specifically, I had seen, I had seen the challenges in the film industry. So I had experienced some by myself. I tried to watch a film distributed via virtual cinemas in 2024 by a Nigerian filmmaker. And I experienced some challenges. I felt, no, now this is 2024. There's a way to use technology to solve all these problems. And then I decided to start asking questions, right? So people should pay attention to this. You don't just jump into business without making inquiries. So your gut feeling typically is not sufficient to create what I say a sustainable business. You need facts. You need to be able to prove that this is a real problem. You need to be able to prove that I am not the only one seeing this problem. You need to be able to prove that there are people willing to pay for this problem, right? So pay for the solution to this problem, pardon me. So I went out there and I started asking questions, right? So I started asking questions from existing filmmakers, distributors, actors, producers, directors, even film viewers. So what then happened? What then happened was at some point, the we need this solution in the industry. We need this solution in the industry. When is this going to be live? It was so overwhelming that even without yet deciding that I am going to start on so date or in so month, I already felt like I was behind. Right? So I'm like, nah, I gotta do this, right? And then, I weighed all the options. The demand was there, the problems were real. I wasn't all up in my head, I was not crazy. And then, I decided to jump into it. So that was how the journey for Filmport was. By the way, one of the first filmmakers I spoke to literally asked me that, when would this be ready? I have a film coming out on social date. Should I delay it for you? And I'm like, nah, don't hang your fate on me. I've not even built it yet. And then, it was that interesting. And that was what really tipped it over the edge for me. And of course, coupled with other things that were happening in my life at the time. So it just seemed right to kickstart it, at that time. If I go back to Endowed Africa, the business I did before this, yeah, it was a case of demand, right? It was a case of demand. It was a case of people were asking me about the solution a lot. And then I eventually said, okay, you know what? Let me start it out. But to be honest, I didn't start with as much urgency as I did with Filmport, as I did with Endowed. But yeah, if it's something you can apply to yourself, typically it starts from a discomfort that you've experienced or you've noticed. Then it goes to validating it, that okay, is this problem real? Are there people experiencing this en masse? And then it goes to, okay, if I'm to provide a solution to this problem, what would it look like? And are people willing to pay for this solution? And once you get all of that, there is just a point where you'll be tipped over the edge and you know you just need to do this for whatever reason it may be, whether the problem is too painful or the opportunity is too large to miss out on, or the demand is pulling you into it. You will find that edge. Is different strokes for different folks, but along that journey you would eventually find the edge and go over the edge and start. That's really what it's like.
Thank you so much, Mayowa. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you've also told us how to differentiate between your gut feeling and something worth building. Because we
Yes.
see we see a couple of things, right? And have you also had experience on you're an executive committee in circles that relates with founders, right? Have you also seen that thing where someone made that mistake? It's a gut feeling and they went with it and it
Mm.
worked out. There was no really a demand there, but then the demand came, right? And
Okay.
have you also seen it the other way around, where you built for something that had a demand, and when it was not available, people are like, okay, maybe this isn't what what we thought that it was.
Yeah, I understand the question. And yes, both scenarios happen. Most times, for the first one, where you have a gut feeling and you're like, I just gotta do this, I just gotta do this, and then you do it. And surprise, surprise, it works, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there are scenarios like that. And usually it doesn't, let me put it like this. It doesn't mean that there is no demand many a time. It might mean that the people do not realize what exactly they should demand for.
Yeah.
But one thing that will always be there, one thing that is a non-negotiable, is the problem. The problem must be there. Let me go backwards a bit, right? They say Henry Ford, the first guy to create a car, said that if he asked human beings at the time what they wanted, they would have said they wanted faster horses, right? And they didn't realize all they needed were cars, right? Now, if someone says I want a faster horse, it means they want to be able to move faster. It means the current pace at which they are moving is slower than what they want, what they need, or what they believe should be at the time. So, yes, the demand has to be there. Or will I say the problem has to be there? right? And when the problem is there, whatever people think they are demanding, whatever people think the solution could be, could now vary. And it could also be in the sense that maybe the infrastructure that will make people see that, oh, this is what we actually need is not yet there. So for example, which businesses can I use to give this example? Things that look like, I mean, what do we need that for? Um, let's say electric cars, for example. What people will say to the average user, right? What's the point of an electric car? Most electric cars are still more expensive than you have your regular cars. And but there's a problem there. There it might be a problem that people are not able to relate with at the time, right? For example, the problem is there is sustainability. But if you look at it in the longer term, electric vehicles, I mean, in the right environment, are cheaper for the users in the longer term, right? When you think about maintenance, when you think about longevity, when you think about how long like a car can last for, and a number of other things, when you think about your health, when you think about, I mean, they're better in the long term. But like, how many people do you want to convince about the long term? In the immediate. So, um, the problems are there. People may not be able to identify it, but I mean, to a good extent, Tesla is an industry definer now. Is a relatively successful business, and but I mean the jury is still out, because I mean car businesses, they have to run for a very long time, and all of that. But yeah, what I can say is yes, there are cases where someone comes out with just a gut feeling. Okay, I think I have an idea. No demand, nothing. They try it, it works. And we actually find that in tech as well. I mean, let me tell you about PiggyVest. Now, PiggyVest started from, I mean, these guys were builders. They've built a lot of things before PiggyVest. These guys were like, they know how to get something from 0 to 1. It's piece of cake for them, right? And someone just tweeted, I mean, they just saw a tweet. Someone said, what if there's a digital form of Kolo? There wasn't really any research, cultural, anything to prove that young people would savings culture wasn't even, I would say, to be honest, like saving amongst young people, especially millennials and Gen Zs now. I can bet that, especially in Nigeria, PiggyVest and Cowrywise made those things mainstream in our generations. How many people were used to saving at the time? I mean, do you get what I mean? It's just you have your money in your bank and maybe you don't use ATM card or you don't use app, but people were not financially savvy. But there was a need for it to be.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, so they saw a tweet. They said, let's try this thing out. There might be a need for it. And they built it and rolled it out in a couple of weeks. And lo and behold, people started using it like, there's something here. Oh, let us. Do you get? So
Yeah.
yes, that can happen, right? And there could be cases where you've done your research as the demand and it doesn't work out. And sometimes it's just because some other factors don't play out. Let me use myself as an example. My last startup, Endowed Africa. The demand is still there till now. But there were factors that did not let the business fly. What was the business? International tuition payments and financing for Africans going to study and live abroad. Study and live abroad, right? Now, 2021 to 2023 was peak Japa wave. Can you remember? Out of Nigeria. Right. Now, the biggest destination countries for people were UK, US, Canada. Till now, people still want to travel abroad for school. And I dare say people will always want to migrate for school. It has been from time immemorial. People always go out of their comfort zone zone to go and seek knowledge and experience new cultures in other places, either as a means of pre-migration or as a means of going to get, superior knowledge and experience and bringing it back home to improve where they are. It will always be a thing. But guess what? This period and just slightly after was also peak economic decline for Nigeria. Nigeria supplies the highest number of students that travel abroad from Africa. Now, it seemed like everything was right, but I just mentioned economic situation of Nigerians. I also mentioned the top three countries that people were going to study at. What was the reason? What was the reason for me to mention it? Is because if you notice, from 2024 till date, these countries have deliberately taken steps to frustrate international students from going into those countries. UK first removed dependency. They started reducing the chances of getting post-study work visa. They start all those things started happening. They started blaming international students for a lot of things that we all know it's not international students causing it in the UK. There is Canada as well, where Canada is saying, oh, Justin Trudeau was too liberal. And then you start finding that international students were getting turned back at the airport, even after already getting their visas, right? And then the USA, same thing, similar thing. So if you combine that with the economics of Nigeria, it wasn't working. But the demand was there. In fact, I would probably say when we're about to shut down, we probably got more people demanding for the service, reaching out to us. But we could not help them because the nature of the demand was slightly adjusted. More people needed loans. Till now, a lot of people needed loans to study abroad. And then liquidity providers, finance partners were not willing to provide loans because they could see the political, blockers and all these things that were happening. So, like, a couple of boxes needed to be ticked, one or two weren't ticked, even as the demand was there and the business couldn't move forward.
Thank you so much, Maiwa, for sharing that. Most times there are things beyond your control, right?
Yeah, there are some
But
things you
most
know.
times, even your gut feeling, does your gut feeling identify a need, right? Even if there's no demand there, even if the customer doesn't have the words to explain the solution yet,
Mm-hmm.
but your gut feeling has to be tied to a need for you to, do something.
Yes, it must be tied to a problem.
So my
Like
next
so.
question, yeah, yeah. The next question is in really tied closely with tech, right? In tech, everybody sees the launch day, right? The whole razzmatazz, and there's always the
Mm-hmm.
planning. Prior to the launch day, it's like everything is always targeted at launch day. When do we launch?
When do we launch?
But
When do
then
we
there are
ship?
seasons of, exactly, when do we ship the features by? But then there are seasons where you are building and you're doing things that nobody sees, right? And most
Yes.
times those seasons are tough. Nobody's cheering for you. And most times, I think I was sharing this earlier, most times you don't have reference points because people, those contents don't also get the clicks. So you don't have a reference
Mhm.
for somebody that has experienced this thing, and you are just on your own, right? See you launch and you are out there. How do people navigate those seasons? Because there's not enough information on that online, right? In between when you are starting and when you now become successful, that in between season, when
Mm,
nobody's seeing you, when nobody's cheering for you, and when
mm,
even deep down, I was saying, even deep down, I'm having panic attacks of how this idea will not work, right?
mhm.
How do people, navigate some of those seasons, and how have you, even in your experience and for other founders, how have they navigated those seasons?
All right. So I'll say first of all, for every single builder currently listening to me and watching me, who is going through what seems to be like the toughest time of their life right now, as they are still building towards, you know, being seen publicly, launching, and all of that. I'll say first of all, you're not the first to experience that. You are not alone. You can find, I mean, I'll go into that in terms of how to navigate it, but it gets better. It's just a matter of time. And there are so many factors that can affect time. The industry you're in, what it actually takes to go from 0 to 1, and funding or not, resources or not, and all of that, right? But how to navigate it? Let me so first of all, navigating a tough season between idea and launch, there must be a fire burning inside of you for what you want to build. Because if that fire is not there, you will give up, or one of these three things will happen. You will give up, or you will do something shabby. So you won't build what is great enough because you will not do it just passively. Or it will take you too long to build it, right? And in almost every single scenario, if one of these three things happen, you're not likely to succeed. You're not likely. So if it takes you too long to build what you need, what you want to build to go to market, if it takes you too long, the market can move past you. A competition can get into timing. If you check every form of great business in the world today, timing is a very, very essential factor of your business. Timing, the right timing. I will tell you, some people were too early. So that's a possibility as well. But that's in terms of like the season, right? And some people came late. Some people came late, right? And some people, their launch could have followed through with a certain cycle and it didn't follow, right? So timing is important. But to be honest with you, it is better to be early and learn quickly and relaunch than to be too late. It is better to quickly build, get out there, whether you succeed or not by your own metrics, learn from it, rebuild, and go back. If you delay it, you will then learn that lesson late when other people have caught on or when the market is no more interested. Right? So, first thing, how do you navigate that tough pre-launch or pre-public phase? You need to be the idea you're building, you need to be burning with it. What you want to achieve needs to consume you. Some people say you need to be obsessed. I don't like to be extreme, right? But you need, it needs to wake you up by 2 a.m. in the night that, do you know that filmmakers in Nigeria take home less than 30% of their gross earnings when they go to cinemas? What are you going to do about it? Like that passion needs to be burning inside of you, because it is what will get you through that, and it needs to keep burning even for the first couple of years of the business. Why? Because I dare say that as difficult as 0.0 to 1 is easier than 1 to 10. Yeah, 1 to 10, hard, my sister. Oh my god. When you now start dealing with real stakeholders and money is now involved, it's a
Exactly.
different ball game. For example, if you take a fintech, for example, I mean, when you're building and the whole idea sounds nice, you want all the pixels to be perfect, or let's say it's something that has to do with wallets, and everything is mad. The moment you launch, you are dealing with fraud. You're dealing with regulators. You're dealing with customers that they are probably not uploading the right documents. They're calling you out on Twitter that your KYC is wrong. You're dealing with customer support where your support might have told the person, upload the documents this certain way, do this, do that. They won't do it and they'll be calling you out that your app doesn't work. Right? So It's a different ball game. It's I believe is much harder than 0 to 1 before you launch, right? But even before you launch, there are significant challenges that you can experience, and one of the ways to navigate is have a burning passion for what you're doing. Number two, have an anchor outside of that business. Yes, I have an anchor. So you need to be able to detach yourself from your business and regain sanity.
That's insanity.
Because a local balance, when you see shege, no be where the shege they come, you go need recover. Pardon my, pidgin if you have global audience who may not understand. But what I'm just trying to say is the source of your stress, your stressors, cannot always be the same place where you get comfort and rehabilitation. You need something else, somewhere else that can keep you based, keep you balanced, right? So for me, I'm a faith person. I have God. Trust me, in this Filmport self, there was a day that I can't give too much details because I mean we're still too early. We're still early in the game, but there was something that was happening, like a major problem happened, and I needed to pay for some things to get us out of that fix. I'll be honest with you, I was on zero, in fact, minus, right? And it was a very painful scenario because let me not go into that, but like that thing needed to be done because every other thing was stuck. And I stepped away from it. I closed my laptop. I shut out everything. And I just went to the side of my bed and I'm like, God, you asked me to do this thing. I'm stuck. Oh, now you go help me now. Because nobody did. Do you get? And I'll be honest with you. After that prayer, it was in less than 1 hour that I was reached out to for something and I got the funds that same night. Now, that story may not always play out. That instance may not always play out for you listening to me. It may be a bit delayed. It may be a bit, but that was the only place I could go. Right? So apart from your place of comfort sometimes leading you to the solution to the problem you're facing, it just gives you succor. It just helps you to be able to clear your head sometimes. I mean, some people, it's their family. And I know people who, once a particular time of the day reach, let hellfire be burning in their business. You can't reach them. They are with their family. They are enjoying family time. And that's what keeps them refreshed for the next day or for later in the night when they get back to work. So, number one, be burning with a passion. Number two, you should have an anchor or seek your comfort in somewhere where your stressor is not coming from, where the business you're building is not coming from. All right. Another thing, and that comfort could also be community, and all of that. Number three, and I find this interesting because I've been there, a lot of early stage builders don't pay attention to this. Maybe my idea is nice. I don't want anybody to steal my idea. But now the idea is the idea that people can see and pay for, that is generating something that is worth something. Ideas are dime in a dozen. Execution and results are everything, right? So this is where I'm going with it. People don't ask for help enough. They don't ask for help enough. They don't ask for help enough. And it's a big challenge because that's where you need the most help. You're navigating something that you probably have never gone down that road before. People don't ask for help enough, right? So ask for help. That's the third thing I would say. The fourth thing is related to ask for help. Try not to do it alone. That's why a lot of startup, accelerators try to encourage founders to have co-founders, because if you share the burden, Imagine you thinking about compliance, product design, marketing, fundraising, um, everything. Imagine you had two other people. This person was handling legal compliance strategy. This person is handling marketing, sales, finance. You are there doing tech. And everybody is in their comfort zone. And everybody, the business will most likely move faster. You solve problems faster. There's less bottlenecks. There are less key man risks and all of that. So yeah, those are what I can say.
Thank you so much, Maiwa. You shared a lot of. I think this is a master class. I think we should call this a master class. But I'm sure when people come back to this session and they're going to just definitely reach out to you. And what you said is really important. We are so obsessed with our ideas, but execution is what, and there's no monopoly of ideas. Everybody literally has similar ideas, but it's only in execution that that sifts people out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we don't ask for help enough. I don't know if it's an African thing. We don't ask for help enough. And we don't. I'm not
I,
sure
I
we've
I think
glamorized
it's
some.
cultural. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think so.
both. I think it's both cultural and it's both cultural and will I say well it's cultural. There's a culture part of it. There's the experience part of it. I mean, if you don't have the experience to know that, yeah, you can't do this by yourself. You may not know that you need to ask for help. Well, there's the personality type part of it too. Like the human beings who someone say I don't like to bother people. I'm talking business here. Oh. You can't do it by yourself. You don't want to bother. What do you mean? Do you get? So I mean, those are some of the things.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think the next question is really about scale or about people that have big dreams, right? I think that's
Okay.
also dreams are for free and everybody can dream up things, right?
Yeah.
But people have big paralyzing dreams. One of my mentors, there's this thing he does. He will, for a workshop, he will ask you to dream. What is your dream? People will say, and he will ask you to quantify it. Someone will say, I need $1 trillion.
Mhm.
And he will not ask you,
What else is it for?
okay, no, he will not ask you, what is your plan towards achieving it? And everybody's just
Uh-huh.
paralyzed, right?
Again.
Do you have the plan written down that you can show me after this session of your? But people have big dreams, and I think I saw this in your bio. You got over 2 million people, to use a platform and even convince the government to create a policy change, right? About people that have, and for you, did it start off as that? Because most times I also see people's vision kind of, evolve and get bigger. But
Hmm.
some people start with big dreams, right? And with the big dreams, there's paralysis. You will now start disqualifying yourself. And
Yeah.
you see, there's this guy on social media, so he goes around asking people, what is your dream?
Hmm.
Everybody has a dream, and for some people, it's very big. How do people, you know, who are normal everyday people with big
Yeah.
dreams, what do you think they should start off doing today? Because I'm pro action. What should they start
Yes.
off doing today? With your big dreams, with your own an island, own 10 Rolls Royce, what should you? And those things are actually obtainable if you give
Mm.
yourself to it. But what do they actually start doing today to get their dreams started?
Okay. So before I answer that, let me do I think let me do a bit of let me add some will I say context and color to the background you mentioned of for me. So the business where we rolled out a solution to 2 million people, or to over 2 million actually people, is different from where I was involved with the government. Okay, they're different. So I just needed to clarify that. The one where I was involved with the government, it was an anti-corruption app that we built then in partnership with Akinfade Foundation. So I led a team that was the technical partner. All right, they had the idea, and then so we came together to push, the solution, And we were able to get the FRSC, Nigerian Police Force, Ministry of Women Affairs, you know, and a number of organizations on board up until even the vice presidency level. We did a launch event for it in October 2019. A number of people used it, and the real impact was that it helped to uncover a number of criminal cases. It was very valuable in investigations and all of that. And there were actual convictions for of bad actors in Nigeria, using that solution. So yes, I just wanted to make it a bit clearer. So the other business where we rolled out to multiple, will I say, millions of people was, it was a, well, I say, a communication solution around that time of COVID. So it was initially a social enterprise. We deployed it for COVID-19 stuff, for COVID-19 innovation challenge, for the NCDC, to be able to communicate with people. But eventually we released it as a B2B SaaS platform. It's called My Service Agent. And then there were some partners that we onboarded that had millions of users. So it was a B2B2C thing. It wasn't a maybe B2C that the end users were direct to us. So it was through the partners that it was great. By the time I exited and I left that business, there were about 6 or 8 enterprise partners. Some of them, they still exist today. They are popular companies. All right. So the question is, you have a big dream, right? And what should you be doing about it now? Pardon me, I'm just like getting my position right. So you have a big dream, and what should you be doing about it now? I want to assume that the let's say someone asked this question. I want to assume that they've already identify and confirm that this is their dream and this is something they are going to do, this is something they want to do. And it's not a matter of if there's a burning desire. I mentioned burning desire before. It's not a matter of if there's evidence that there's the burning desire, and all of that. So how do they go about it? One thing you need to do is, as big a dream as it is, right, as possible as it may be, if you don't do your own research, like DYOR, if you don't talk to people, if you don't ask questions, you may not be able to figure out the how. And the how is different in different fields. So the how of building a fintech startup is different from the how of building a film production company. It's different from the how of building a content brand. Right? Yeah. Content creation is a career path now. Right? It's different from the how of being a career professional in banking. It's different from the how. No matter what your dream is, the how you achieve it, the technical how, is important. And there's no way to figure it out except maybe you're an industry expert where you've been in industry for a while. So you will need to talk to people, you need to research. So you need to validate that there's a problem. I mentioned that before. You need to research a lot into how things are done in that industry if you're a new entrant into that industry and all of that. So first of all is talking and finding out more about it. But by the time you start finding out more about it, let's say you now have the big picture, you have a detailed roadmap, or you have a detailed, this needs to happen before this. You break it down. How will I explain it? All right. If you have a big loaf of bread, a full big loaf of bread in Nigeria is as big as or bigger than the head of a person, right? But there are people that can eat half a loaf. Some can eat a whole loaf, right? But they don't eat that whole loaf by trying to fit the entire loaf into their mouth at once. They either tear it off or slice it into pieces and cut it into smaller chunks and just consume it away, right? It's the same principle. Like the principle is not a complex thing. It's a this is the big dream. Walk back from that dream. To get to that point, what is the level before that? What is the level before that level? What is the level before that level before that level? What is the level before? What do you need at the what do I need to do today that will take me one step closer by tomorrow? What do I need to do by tomorrow that will take me one step closer by next tomorrow? You break it all down and then you walk towards it from there. The problem with the generation we are in today is that when you dream of something, you believe you can achieve it by tomorrow or by next week or by next month. And that is what pushes people into the dark side of things. Unfortunately, there are a lot of young people who are chasing after fraudulent activities, who are doing diabolic things to make money, to present themselves in a certain way. And it's really because they don't understand that. Let me give you an example. I had a story one day, and it was that there was this guy that wanted to use, was he his sister or someone in his family for money rituals? This happened in Nigeria. And then he was caught. So he had not done it. He was caught. And then this guy, I think he was still in senior secondary school. He was not in university yet. Was it senior? Anyways, he was in secondary school. All those people that just before they do NECO, And then they start asking the question like, what pushed you into this? Like, you're just, is it 17 or 18 years? It was not more than 19. Why are you trying to do this? And then at the end of the day, they found out that there's one brother somewhere in their community that drives, is he a Mercedes Benz C200 or a regular car? Like, the car is not to 10 million naira. And the guy has iPhone 17. So essentially, what this guy wanted to kill a member of his family for, altogether was not up to 15 million naira. Right? And if you finish your school and do honest business, you can make that money. Legit, clean. Nobody has suffered. It is yours. Nobody can take you from it. Nobody can arrest you for it. But you can't be patient for that. You are now trying to. So that lack of patience makes people, not go about things the right way. Because when you break things down, you realize you have to be patient. You need to build one step upon the other, right? So back to the actual question. I know I've segued a bit just to drive home the point. When you have a big dream, ask enough questions. When you ask questions, break down what it takes into bite size, daily steps, weekly steps, monthly deliverables, quarterly deliverables that can get you there. Now, when you see someone who is at that point of like at that peak of where you want to be, but maybe who currently lives the life you desire, you don't compare yourself to them. That person might be at that point off the back of 30 years of journey. You might just be 2 years into your entrepreneurship career. I have less than 10 years in entrepreneurship. I've been in tech for almost 10 years. But as a full-time entrepreneur, I've not done it for 10 years. I can't compare myself with someone that's done it for 20 years and is a billionaire. And then I want to be driving the same cars he's driving. I want to be doing the same things he's doing. Do you get? So like it's one of the things that, so avoid the comparison, right? But find a way to learn and break it down. Now, If you don't envy them and compare yourself to them, what do? Study them.
Hmm.
Study them.
Yeah.
For example, there are filmmakers, or will I say film distribution companies that I studied. I've never spoken to their founder before, but I studied when I was trying to build Filmport. Why? Because see easy templates now. Someone has done this before. It's documented. You can tell that this person made a mistake here. That means I will not pass that route. And that will even make you achieve your goals faster. Why? Because you know the pitfalls not to get into that will delay you. Let me give you an example as it pertains to my industry. There's someone who has built, businesses in film distribution, and the person is seen as they failed. Because I mean, you can look at now, I mean, there are even articles today that say, oh, graveyard of film streaming and distribution startups. They'll say, hey, Showmax shut down, Iroko this one that, movie Kinikon this, and they're like, so what will you do? All these people have gone and failed. Well, these people have succeeded as well. Now, where am I going with that? I will look at all these things. The ones that succeeded, the ones that failed, the ones that they're neither here or there, the ones that can publish their financials. You study all the steps they took. The ones that failed, or maybe they got to the peak and they failed. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? The ones that succeeded and stayed there, what did they not do? What did they avoid doing? What did they start and stop? What did they start and continue? What do they focus on? And these are the things you look at. So you can learn from anyone who has gone ahead of you. You don't need to be in close proximity with them to say, come and mentor me directly. Read everything they've said. Read everything they've written. Watch all the interviews that they've granted. Learn from their stories. Read between the lines. And you will find important information that will guide you to achieve that same thing, probably even faster than them. Because you will not make the mistakes they made that caused them to be delayed, right? So I'm not going to give you aspire to perspire to say motivate yourself every morning. No motivate. But like practical executionable things. Ask questions, break it down into
Yeah.
bits. Have mentors. You don't need to engage them in person. Learn from their stories. How did they achieve what you want to achieve? And learn what to do, learn what not to do, and just take it a step at a time, really.
Thank you so much, Maiwa, for sharing this because I totally agree with you. I also don't know if it's because of social media, there's the whole glamorization of success, right?
Yeah.
And everybody just wants to get there tomorrow. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something else I was working on, and someone was just trying to tell me how all the 10 things I need to do. I was like, okay, first of all, I just joined this industry. I'm barely 6 months. Why are you comparing me with someone that's here 15 years and telling me how they are doing this and how I should suddenly start?
Bro,
I just came. I just arrived. I just
please
arrived. Just
don't
coming from
pressure
Slack.
me.
Yeah. True. I think for me, for pressure, I don't think that people should pressure you. You should be the one that should pressure yourself because you know where you are and you know if you have made progress and if you haven't. So you should be the one that has the right to pressure yourself, not external people. They don't even know if you have funding, if you have backing, but people are telling you to do all this. Is
And
like
guess what?
I just came. I'm still
Some of
learning.
these people, if you ask them for the money, it's not that they'll give you.
Oh my god, no. In that case, it was even that they also maybe you also touch on this, they profit from your ignorance. In hindsight, looking at it, most of those things they're asking you to do, they want to do it for you and they will profit of you not knowing the
Mm,
right way to do those things. It's not that you do
mm,
that as a business, but when you are much older, for example, people
mm.
that are setting up like retail stores, they will say, leave social media, set up stores, set up in this country, because they want to set it up for you. They are exploiting your ignorance. It's
Let them
not
sell
like it
markets
doesn't.
now.
just like,
NSL
okay,
market.
I don't know what is happening here. I just came. It's not. I'm not your customer. Move me, moving along. Be moving along. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that on patience. And you've touched on a couple of things. I don't know if it's social media. I think like this, there's obsession, and people are not patient. I also don't know why that is. I really don't know why. And I was sharing earlier today with someone that the Warren Buffett that we all celebrate, he's made his money in his old age. Oh, but you want to make Warren Buffett's money and you just started.
Leave them. Leave them. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's an interesting phenomenon because um when when you go across different social stratas of life, let's use money now. There are different ways to define success, right? Different levels you get to has different levels of problems, and you mature as you grow through the journey. I said grow, meaning you're growing, not that you are going or you are blowing or you are jumping. You are growing. So, level one, oh, is this level of problems? You solve it. You go to level two, is this level of problems? Now you've built capacity from solving level one. But imagine you go from level one to level 10. All the lessons you could have picked from two, three, four, five, six to maintain the result at 10, you are not able to maintain it. Why? Because you didn't learn those things. You didn't learn those things, right? So
exactly.
people need to understand, like, we just need to be patient with ourselves, like, because, well, it is what it is. Let's move on to the next to the next question.
Yeah. One of the things that you shared is also about working with government. I know that some of, I think I was just watching a movie recently about government and all those things. But what are your
Mm,
experiences, and what do you think that people that are building solutions that have something to do with government? Because that's also the thing. It's us that will solve our problems, right? Someone has
yeah.
to someone has to do the job, right? What are your experiences working with this stakeholder? Because sometimes we stay away from them. Maybe also because we don't know much.
Mm,
What are experiences? What are some of the challenges, and kind of how do you navigate that if someone is building a solution that has something to do with government, or building a solution that the government is also going to adopt at the end of the day? And this applies
mm,
to even in health, right?
mm,
Sustainability of health programs is that the government take it up. You can't build it forever. Is that they take it up. People that are doing things in relation to that, what are your thoughts, and should we stay away? I don't think we should stay away. I think we need to.
and okay,
What
so
experiences?
um let me put it this way. Should we stay away? Let me start from there. No, don't stay away. If you have a passion for something that requires government involvement, don't stay away, but be smart about how you do it. Understand the government you're in. I imagine you have audiences who are not Nigerian, but if you're dealing with the Nigerian government, for example, one of the biggest problems working with Nigerian government is the way things change. Things can change overnight because of vested interest, right? And that's one of the challenges people face, working with Nigerian government, right? For what is worth, right? th- I don't know if that's the problem with the current government in Nigeria. I think as great or bad you might say they are, there's a relative amount of consistency with some things that you would see. But generally, what has plagued the Nigerian government over the years is you can be doing a business that involves government now, and another administration comes in and they will decide to just cancel the contract and say they have other people they want to give the contract to, because there's this subtle undertone but large elephant in the room. When I say elephant in the room, I think it's just a large cultural problem with the government, where pe- people still see government and government still see people as an allocation based economy. What I mean by that is, okay, let me use this popular parlance: my share of the national cake. Do you understand what I mean by that? Hello, Chema, are you there? Okay. You're muted or something. I can't hear you, but we can go on. Hello. Hello.
Okay, hi Maiwa. I think I dropped off a bit, but please go ahead. We are still live. As
Can
long
you
as
hear
you're
me?
here with yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I was saying that one of the problems that we have is that when people some people do business with government, or there are some undertones to the way governments, and I'm not saying any particular government, is a common thing, it's a cultural thing in Nigeria, whether it's APC, PDP, whatever, from whenever. It's this, it's almost like everything in government does is like we are helping the people, or what, or and then there is also the part where some people doing business with government see it as, oh, my share of the national cake, right? And that's all palliative mentality affects things. So it also seeps into government relationships, right? Where in you can find a state government has awarded a contract to someone or to a business, and the business might be executing that contract well. And then a new government comes in, maybe that government's tenure has finished. The governor didn't run for another term, or maybe the party lost when, and then a new government is in, and that business might be doing well, and they will just cut off the contract, based on vested interest, or they have other people they want to give that contract to as a means of, okay, it's our people now, our people. Do you get that kind of a thing? And it's one of the dangerous things of dealing with government. Now, if you ask me, what business model is the best when it comes to you see good money and you be fine? There's B2C, there's B2B, there's B2B2C, there's B2G, business to government. I think is one of the best. People consistently do business with governments, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. The government money is very cool money, it's very sweet money, it's very it is big money, right? Most times. But the problem is that certainty over a long period of time. In the United States, Palantir, Lockheed Martin, some of these guys, they have contracts with the US Army, they have contracts with the US government, and they have contracts that have been going on 10 years, 20 years, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat party that is in power. They are still, even SpaceX, they are providing their services to the government. Nobody is saying, oh, because you are not my guy, I'm cutting off the contract, whether you are executing properly or not. And that's the difference between doing business with government in a country like that and in Nigeria. There's a lot of sentimental stuff that happens around in Nigeria. And many times at the detriment of quality work, or at the detriment of the person who has been doing it well. Let me give you an example. single treasury account, or what do they call it? There's a contract that a company called Remita had with Nigerian government, and they were processing all transactions. That's why if you want to pay for NYC, if you want to pay for this, if you want to pay for that, anything that has to do with government, you see Remita. You know, at some point, it was announced that, at some point, it was obvious that Remita was not going to be doing that anymore. And I don't even think it was from the case of, I know they are still doing a lot of it. I don't know if they've started rolling it out, like rolling it back. And I don't even think it was a case of competence. It was just a case of, well, new government doesn't think they should continue with them. Right. Which other examples can I give? I mean, there is let me see, which example can I give that is not politically charged or something. But yeah, what I'm just trying to say is a new government can come in and say, okay, that contract is done, we're going to give it to our guy. And we're in a country where that may not be questioned much. There's a certain
Yes.
project in this country, probably the biggest or one of the biggest infrastructure projects that's ever happened, that a company got it without any public bid, any background checks or anything, and all of that. And allegedly is because of the relationship of the person who owns that company with the president of the country, as at the time that this project came up. Right now, is there, if something should happen, right, and this company is no more in the good books of the government, that project will be yanked off them. If it's no more in
Immediately.
the good books of the president, that project will be yanked off, and that's the problem. So I said all of that to say this: doing business with government is good because there is no surer stakeholder that you can bank on that you get your money than the government. The government has money. The government will always have money, no matter how broke the government is. Right? Yes, there are cases where your contract money can be delayed. That can be traced to inefficiencies, bureaucracies, and all of that within the system. Not that the money is not available. Most times, right? And to be honest, is not as much a common thing, especially maybe when there's no issues, no external issues. So doing business with government is good. But in a country like Nigeria, it is interesting. A lot of relationships and allegiances and alliances matter. So if you are the type that you don't want to have some kind of alliances with some kind of government or parties, it may not be for you. There is a part of this country where you need to be of a certain religion and have some certain alliances before you can get some kind of project. Right? So it is what it is. Right? That's what happens. Is it right or wrong? I don't think it's right. Of course not. Everything should be on, merit, track record, can you deliver, and all of that. All of us are Nigerians, whether we segregate according to faith or tribe or what. We are all Nigerians, right? We carry the same passport. But let's leave that. So that is something to watch out for. Another thing to watch out for when it comes to doing business with government is you need to have like your many a time, in as much as you might be competent, it's now more about, okay, I already said it in passing. It's more about how can you manage stakeholders properly. Stakeholder management is the bigger part of it. Managing stakeholders. You see, when we wanted to partner with the Nigerian Police Force, the Federal Road Safety Commission, the Ministry of Women Affairs, all these guys, when we're building Flag It Up then, in 2018, 2019, 2020, there was a time I was flying to Abuja almost every other week or almost every month for meetings. just to, oh, you've seen this head of clinical department today. You have to see this other person. You have to see that other person. You have to meetings on meetings, and you are pitching the same thing over and over and over again. My friend, if you don't have the stamina to do that, you may not be able to do business with government. Oh. And you can chase one thing for months, sometimes years. But guess what? The day it will happen like this, bam, it can come like a mighty rushing wind, right? So, um, so you need that stamina, you need that stakeholder management, building relationships. The way you will pitch to, let's say you have to pitch to Senate, for example. The way you pitch to Senate is different from if you pitch to the judiciary. It's different from if you pitch to an agency. Like, because in as much as everybody has a different modus operandi, they have different objectives. So the way you approach it, it needs to be different. And you need to understand your stakeholders. Then there's the part of, whether I like it or not, in somewhere like Nigeria, human relationships matter than you realize. And I mean it most especially in a negative way. I won't say more than that, but you want to do a government contract and someone is the head of a particular ministry and you need a contract from that ministry, you need to partner with that ministry. If that head of ministry's wife should do birthday, send hamper.
Wow.
If
Wow.
their daughter should get married, go and show up at the reception, let them see your face.
Wow.
These things matter in the world of they matter in the corporate world, right? It also matters in the corporate world. But you
Yeah.
see, when it comes to government and politics, I'm talking most especially in the context of Nigeria, they matter even more. Because
Yeah.
in reality, there's there's very little checks and balance in these things. Someone can just wake up and decide with their cabal and say, this is who we are giving the contract to. Cry from now to tomorrow, nothing will happen. Do you get? So those things matter. But the thing is that, should you pursue? I will say yes. If you have a burning desire, you have an idea, you have something you want to do that involves government, it involves making the lives of people better, regardless of whatever stakeholder you need to engage with, I think you should pursue it, because in the end, like you said earlier, it is us that will solve our problems.
It is us. No one
It
is
is
coming
us
to
that
save us.
It's us that will solve our problem. So if you have the idea to turn around something, go ahead, pitch, do what you can, and all of that. So yeah, relationships, patience. What else did I say concerning doing business with government? Yes, go for it. But then you need to be careful about all these things.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And that is really, I think I was speaking to someone at the last live session. How she framed it was, you have to understand how the world works, and then you play advantage. We are currently in this reality, and this is how it works. We shout from today to tomorrow, it wouldn't change anything, right?
No, it won't change.
So understand how it works and play to your advantage. That's the only way around it. Yeah, yeah. My final question. I think we've been here a while, and I've been enjoying this session. I feel
All
like we
right.
should
I
go
hope
on.
it has been worth your while.
Yes, it has been, and I've learned a lot. Right, I've learned a lot that there's nothing wrong with having big dreams, right? But you need to figure out a way to approach it. And I like how you framed it around ask questions, right? Ask questions. Take the loaf. The analogy you gave about the loaf is really, it really drove that point home for me. There's nothing wrong with your loaf, but you need to figure out how you navigate the loaf, right? And are you going
Yeah,
to
break it
slice it,
down.
or are you going to
Yeah.
break it down? How are you going to navigate it? There's nothing wrong with your bread, but you need to figure out
Mm-hmm.
a way to eat it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. My final question is this, right?
All right.
And you touched on it earlier, which is around timing. And
Mm,
most times that is a bit tricky. And yes, and you mentioned something about starting early. I think I had
mm,
one time where I did a LinkedIn series on some, I mean, the financial space, fintechs that, started way too early. There's one I know that comes to mind that started agency banking during COVID when it wasn't when it wasn't a thing. But it's now that we have positive policies and they have failed and broken their legs, and people have come and stepped on them and moved forward. And it now feels like
mm,
these people just came. They just came, but somebody paid the price, right? Somebody failed. And it also makes people scared, right? How do I know the right timing? How do I time my seasons? How do I know when to launch? How do I know that this idea is the right time to ship it, or I should hold on? What do I do in terms of timing and in terms of readiness? I can have all the ideas, but something
mm,
might change, and that gets people stuck. Like, your brain freeze. You're like, okay, what if I do it? It doesn't work. What if I am too early? What if I'm now late? Everybody now has a fintech. Do I build another? Like, people, when you're considering all these things, you're just in analysis paralysis. You're like, okay, what now
mm.
do I do? Right? What's your your
How do
take
you
on?
navigate that?
Yeah, yeah,
So the phrase analysis paralysis exists because it's a real thing.
yeah.
It's not, even cliches exist because there's some element of truth there. All right. So um so how do you navigate, to basically knowing how soon the timing of when to go out there? I'll say something. Ideas are a dime in a dozen. I said that before. I've studied generation of ideas, the way ideas come. And I have a general and a faith inclined explanation to it. And it is that when you have an idea to solve something, to build something, to solve a problem, most especially if it's something impactful, there is every chance, there's almost 100% certainty that that period, there are probably two, three, four, up to 10 other people who have the same ideas, and they are not too far away from you. They are probably within your community, they are within your country, they are, and the reason is our experiences are more similar than we think. So if everybody's experiencing something similar, probably has a similar background, probably think relatively alike, probably has a similar amount kind of thing they are consuming, probably has similar experiences, there's a possibility that all those things will crystallize in your brain, and that spark will come, and some of them will pick it, and it will be like, I am not, see, this is quite interesting. This is amazing, Kairos. Some minutes before getting on this call, I was on a phone call with someone, and the person was asking for advice. Oh, I have this idea. I want to execute it. How do I go about it? This, that. And then he narrated the idea, and I just smiled. And I told him I had this exact same idea. Exact same thing, targeted at the same set of people, involving the same amount of capital, replica of the idea. Do you know what I did? Just to show him that I'm not trying to get one over him, I took a screenshot of when I got the idea, and the notepad that I wrote it in with the date. I took a screenshot and I sent it to him. He was shocked. He was shocked. So when you are in a similar environment, you watch similar things, there is that theory, there's that human psychology theory that everything will lead you to. If you are naturally entrepreneurial, you probably pick similar ideas, or ideas that are not too far, or ideas that are related. It's a given. The second thing, when it comes to The second thing is that God gives people ideas for times and seasons. And when he does, he doesn't give it to only one person, or he makes it available in a certain strata of I don't want to go too spiritual about it, but people who are sensitive will pick it in that season. And essentially means there's a probability that it's not just you that has that idea. Now, where am I going with this? It means that when you have an idea that is burning in your heart or something, you are either right on time where that idea needs to exist, or you are just before the time it needs to exist. It's one of the two. Either you have to do it now or never, or you need to start working on it now, because in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, this thing will be a big thing. Almost 100% of the time, that's the situation. So when you delay, you will either miss it or arrive when, as Christians we say, when the glory is passing. You will either miss it. So now, I said all of that to say this. If you have an idea, go for it, build it, roll it out, don't wait. Now, we said earlier in the conversation that it's possible to be too early in the market. Now, even if it is possible to be too early in the market, you need to have something in the market. Learn from it. When someone is too early in the market, chances are there are other markets they might not be too early for. Chances are there might be some things they need to do or they could have done to sustain them long enough for the market to be ready for them. Or chances are there are infrastructure deficiencies in the market that makes them too early, that needs to be plugged, and they probably need to partner with those people to make it happen. Right. So I said all of that to say, you have an idea, you want to know when to roll it out. So long the idea has formed, you have done your research, you already know what it takes to build it. You just don't know if you build it now, you're already getting late. Build it and roll it out. No matter how small it is. No matter how small the seed is, build it and roll it out. When you roll it out, learn from that, build up gradually from there, but get something doing. The learnings you will learn over, let's say, 1 year, and the thing doesn't go mainstream, it is in this person that will come and join that journey the year after won't have that experience to ride on. You will already have that experience, even if it doesn't blow in 1 year. So what I would say is roll it out, try hard as you can, as often as you can, learn as much as you can, iterate as much as you can, and just keep going. Don't wait and say, it is when this thing will come, bam, that's when I'll roll it out. What if there are mistakes you ought to make and learn before the big break comes? You can't be making those mistakes when the big break is already here. So you have a big idea. I think you should roll it out as soon as you can, whatever minimum version. Okay, so I think around your question, there was something also around, was there something around how perfect should it be? Is there something like that in the question? I'm trying to remember the question now.
Not really, but yeah, there's
Okay.
also people who also, yeah, but when we talk about analysis paralysis, even if you say, okay, maybe let me start now, but how perfect should it be? Those are also kind of part of the conversations. So yeah.
Okay, so how perfect should it be? I'll say it depends on the field you're in. Yeah. If it's a typical enterprise SaaS, software as a service, tech products, the average, typical tech product, roll it out. You don't need it to be perfect. Put it behind better. Tell people to be requesting for early access. You know,
Yeah.
demo it to a private, to a small proof of people, make some money from them as proof, roll it out to more people and keep improving. Don't wait till it's all perfect because you will still make mistakes anyways. Why not make
Yeah.
it now when it's not yet perfect and learn from it and move on? You will still make mistakes.
True. True.
So
True.
there is that. But there are some industries where some kinds of imperfections cannot exist.
Yeah, there's that too.
Let me give you three industries, three examples. First industry, my industry. If you want to do anything that has to do with streaming, your anti-piracy must be working. Your payment collections must be working. If it's not working, you are going to have a disaster by the time you launch, especially if you go do a big launch. Let's go to aviation. You can't be playing with people's lives. You can't roll out a software for aeroplanes that has poor GPS coordinates. You'll kill people. That one has to be perfect though. Sorry, before you know, think about healthcare, diagnostics tools. You can't be telling people they have cancer when it's malaria they have. No, that one has to be perfect, right? So that's why I said depends on your industry. In payments, your OTP, security of transactions, security of wallets, it needs to be ready. Now, it doesn't mean the interface of the app needs to be the finest. But remember the things like security, those things need to be there, right? So, perfection level required for the first rollout, it depends on the industry you're working in. The aviation industry requires 0.0000, I've forgotten 00, the number of zeros level of margin of error. You are not allowed to make any mistake. Right? Medical field too, similar thing. Finance, in some context, similar thing. Shouldn't make mistake because these things are crucial to literally the lives of people. But if you are doing, let me not downplay anybody's industry, but like if you're doing HR software, if you're doing social media, you can make mistake, Jerry, because the consequences are not, you can do something maybe just about MVP level or slower and roll out and get feedback and iterate and but there's some industries that of course there's a level of perfection, especially in some specific sections of your products that you need to be ready. So yeah, that's the way to approach it.
Thank you so much, Mayowa. I have learned a lot. I think that I have this is a master class. Thank you so much for taking time out to share with us, and we'll definitely do that Ask Mayowa session. Well, I think that once people are done, by the end of today, we'll see how many people that were streaming this session. But this has been so much impactful, and you shared practical